his 4 maids, his 5 automobiles, and his 6 houses throughout the world, he had $25,000 a month left over. Common sense says what? They're not going to approve this deal. He can afford it. Chase Bank approved it, waived $600,000 in a deficiency, and we closed it. That don't make sense, folks. Don't make sense at all. So I submit anything, I'll go to the bitter end of the world to try to get it done. However, if you have somebody that we really can't tweak it to be a financial hardship, there is a chance they're going to say no, or there's a chance they're going to want a promissory note. As long as we all know that going in, I'll do the best job that I can to get it approved and try to get the deficiency waived. But, you know, in them scenarios, we don't know who qualifies. If you're questionable, have the homeowner call me, because I can say certain things to them to tweak their financial statements. Things I cannot change. Anything on the credit report, if they have cash in the bank, there's certain things. If you have $25,000 sitting in a savings account, I'm going to say to your seller, I assume you're only going to send me your checking account statements. Because whatever they send me, I am obligated by law to send it to the bank. I had one individual I said that to, sent me a savings statement. He had $910,000 in the bank. I'm screwed. What am I going to do? I had to send it. But usually your homeowner will catch on when I say, I assume you're only going to send checking account statements. And they say, yes. And then I'll say, I assume you don't transfer money back and forth into your checking account where the account number tracks on your checking account statements, correct? And they'll say yes. Or I have a lot of money sitting in my checking account. I would assume the bank statements, when you send them to me, are going to not have a large balance in the beginning and a large balance at the end. Things that we can estimate.
And if they're not late in their payments, too?
That does not matter anymore.
Okay.
The old myth, when short sales started, there was 2 things you had to do years ago. List it for what is owed for at least 90 days. Well, if I owe $1 million on my house and it's worth $100 grand, who in God's green earth is going to offer me close to $1 million for a house that's worth 100? So the banks finally realized, somebody out there had one inkling of common sense, we better list these for what they're worth. So now they're doing that. And then before, the investor says, well, they have to be 30 or 60 days delinquent. Wait a minute. You're going to do a short sale. It's going to happen anyways, a short sale foreclosure. Why don't you continue to get payments and work on the short sale, you idiots? So somebody else says, yeah. Now there is still a couple, I call old school investors, that say, nope, we won't approve it unless they're 30 days delinquent. Then we have to call your homeowner and explain to them they need to go 30 days delinquent. That does happen only in about 5% of the files anymore. 5 years ago, it was majority of them. Yes.
How does this affect their credit?
Good question. When we started this, everybody knows there's 3 basic credit reporting agencies: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. You sit each one of them down, and I did about 5 years ago in my office. How is a short sale going to affect a homeowner? And they all said the same thing: we don't know. I said, how do you come up with the score? We don't know. He says, okay, what can you tell me? How many points roughly? We don't know. All we can tell you is if it comes in as a foreclosure or a short sale or settled for less, it hits your credit 50% less than the words foreclosure. That's all I could get out of it. Now, I do know enough about the credit reporting. It has to do how long you've been in a credit bureau, how long you've been making payments to somebody, how much available credit you've got. Means if I have a credit card that's got a $10,000 limit and I creep over 50%, meaning I spent over 50% on that credit card. So if I have a limit at 10 grand and my current balance is 5,100, I start getting points hit on my credit. When you use up more than 50% of your available credit, you start to become a risk. Some people will have $10,000 limit, have $10,000 balance, that hits you hard. Because the machine, the scoring numbers says, whoa, wait a minute, this person's not managing their money correctly because every available dollar loaned to them, they've used up. So, I know available credit is a big issue and what type of credit you have. If it's a whole bunch of credit cards, that's not good. They like to see a mortgage, they like to see automobile, and they like to see a few credit cards. Yes?
What is the minimal sized short sale that you guys will do?
Good question. Minimal size short sale that we'll accept starts to fall into about 15 grand and below. And here's why. It's not the selling price of the house, it has to do what the bank is gonna net when we do the preliminary HUD. If you have a house that you're selling for $15,000, most of the ones we see, there's back taxes, there's assessments, there's water bills, sewer bills due. And if you take 15 grand, subtract all that stuff, 2 years of back taxes, penalties, your commission, the title company's transfer taxes, and the bank's getting nothing, they're not gonna negotiate that. They're not even gonna bother. So when we start to get into the cheaper price houses, you have to take the short sale one step further and investigate how much taxes are owed, what's all the back bills. Simple math. Take what you think you can get out of it, minus all normal fees, and if it comes out to be under $1,000 going to the bank, we can't do a deal. And don't forget to put a little money in there for us.
And how is it that you guys make money on doing this?
We take 85% of your commission.
Excellent.
No. We do not charge the homeowner directly. They'll never write us a check. We don't ask any part of your commission whatsoever. We don't ask the buyer any type of money. We ask the selling bank for 2 fees, actually 3 fees on the HUD. Nationwide Loan Hub goes on the preliminary HUD for $500. Pinnacle Law Group goes on a HUD for $3,500. You do the math, 35 and 5, it's $4,000. 22% of the time, I get nothing. Means the bank says, we won't pay anything, remove that, we won't pay that, remove that. And I'm okay with that.
Well, you got your tax proration thing.
On some. We're getting tax prorations on 60% of them.
When aren't you?
When the bank says no.
Oh,
The bank says no, we
the
won't do that.
client has to sign.
Yeah, the client has to sign. We disclose. The other issue, or where we get our money, is tax prorations. Doesn't affect the buyer, doesn't affect the seller. Any of you that close a transaction is, if it's a normal transaction, the buyer reimburses the seller for the unused taxes, dollar amount of the taxes. Do you understand that? On a normal transaction, because we pay in advance down in Oakland County, the taxes are paid 1 year in advance, so the title company calculates it, and the buyer reimburses the seller. Well, the seller cannot get any money at closing on a short sale. So, we have an affidavit or amendment to the purchase agreement that allows the seller is waiving their rights to the proration of taxes and allowing us to get it. Which means the buyer pays the same amount, proration of taxes is X, but it's paid to Pinnacle Law Group. That amendment's sent into the bank when we negotiate. It's then sent with the HUD for approval, and it's on there because we don't know what the prorations are going to be till the end. Right on the front page, tax prorations paid to Pinnacle Law. So we notify them in the beginning, we then notify them again with that amendment and the HUD, and then when it goes for final closing, where they have to get final approval, they then see it again, so they see it 3 times. So we're not hiding it like some big company around here was doing. We don't do that.
He's hiding in an orange jumpsuit now.
But are you, like, you read some disclosure at the beginning of
Yeah.
this meeting, and
Yeah.
what I'm not understanding is the attorneys at the Pinnacle Law Firm, are they representing our?
Sure, so yes. The attorney's in it. Rich Sable's there all the time. He is the attorney. So he is on the short sale. We get people, we had a lady call 6 months ago. Can I speak with my attorney? Can I ask what file it's on? We don't know what's on this file. I need you to sue my neighbor. They got too many cats. Well, unfortunately, you hired us, retained us to do the short sale.